Hello and welcome back to North 100, the Canadian Highlander podcast. I'm your host Liam, joined here by Jer. We're back down to 2, but I promise Serge will be back, probably.
Maybe. Who knows?
He might be in prison. If you don't get the joke, watch the last episode. Before we start today, I will remind you all that everything we do here at the LoadingReadyRun Video Network couldn't be possible without your support over at patreon.com/LoadingReadyRun. So thank you so much for that. We really appreciate it. So yeah, thanks so much for that support. Today, we're going to be doing a bit of a deep dive on specific combo decks. So Jared and I we brought 2 different decks to talk about. So we're going to be spending a bunch of time doing that. But before we get to that, we're going to be doing our opening segment, the best card you're not playing. And today it's going to be me doing the best card you're not playing. And the reason I briefly introduced the topic is because the best card you're not playing this week is a combo card.
What is it?
The combo card we are talking about this week is Retraced Image.
Oh, so it's not even a good combo card.
No, it's above average in exactly one deck. So Retraced Image is a sorcery for a single blue, and it says reveal a card in your hand, then put that card into play if it has the same name as a permanent in play. Now you might be thinking, Liam, this is a 100-card singleton format, this card seems like garbage, and you're right, mostly. So the one deck that we play this card in is High Tide, and we don't even always play it, I'll be totally honest. But the reason we play it is because it's one of the cards that lets you go fast. It's something that can accelerate an extra island into play, which is the card you're going to be revealing. And in High Tide, in metagames where you have to go fast, this is one of the cards that you put into your deck for that reason.
It is necessary when you want to go fast in High Tide.
Like sure. when you have to build the deck to go very quickly. So yeah, this card's really cool. It's a best card you're not playing, maybe, but it's not a slam dunk in every deck. Please do not start playing this in decks that have basic islands or, basic lands, because you really only want it in basically exactly High Tide.
Yeah, I can't think of any other deck you really want to play it in.
No.
Can we at least get the fishy like the Merfolk High Tide?
Or the Dak Faden IDW promo High Tide.
That's the best High Tide.
No, the Dak Faden one's that. Come on, he's captain.
Way too new.
It's so good.
Not down.
All right, that one's pretty good too.
That one just doesn't look like anything.
It's a High Tide. It's literally a shoreline.
Is it?
I don't know.
Who knows?
I'm speaking confidently, but I don't actually know. Okay, so anyway, that's the best card you're not playing. But without further ado, let's get into our main subject matter for today. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about a couple of decks. We're going to go in depth on how they work, and we're going to try and unlock the sort of mysticism behind some of these combo decks. Because a lot of the time, if you're not someone who's played these decks a lot or put a lot of reps into it or watched a lot of these decks, it can kind of feel overwhelming to watch someone play because they'll maybe be playing very quickly or they won't be explaining themselves. So we're going to try and help you out with that. So the first deck we're going to talk about is the Paradox Engine Academy combo deck. We've actually talked about it on the show before, but in kind of a more cursory, quick way. And today we're hoping to go a little deeper. Jared, can you talk me through how this deck works broadly?
Yeah, so broadly this is an Academy ramp deck trying to accelerate with mana rocks such as signets and talismans, get a lot of fast mana via Mishra's Workshop and Tolarian Academy, and then cast some draw 7s to try to set up some sort of winning game state for themselves.
Yeah, and so just quickly for people who might be listening and not watching, Tolarian Academy is a land that produces a blue mana for each artifact you control. And Paradox Engine, the other card we're going to talk about a fair amount, though it's not 100% core to the deck, is a 5-mana artifact that says whenever you cast a spell, untap all non-land permanents you control. Yep. And that happens to be quite good with artifacts that make mana.
Yeah. So in this deck, you're playing a lot more of the artifacts that tap for multiple mana. Like you're even playing things like Golem's Eye, which is
2 shows in a row we've gotten this one in.
A 4-mana artifact that taps for 2 colorless. Ceesay's Ring, which does the same thing. And you're really valuing things like Thran Dynamo, which is 4 mana, taps for 3. Worn Power Stone, which is 3 mana, taps for 2, but comes into play tapped. Things that tap for multiple mana are really, really high value in this deck.
Yep. And so one of the things about this deck that can be very difficult to play against is we've called it the Paradox Academy combo deck because that's what it is. But it actually doesn't need either of those cards to win. This deck has a lot of sort of backdoor ways into 2 or 3 card combos that are gonna win the game, or maybe produce infinite mana to set up a way to win the game. Maybe one of the biggest cards that I can think of is Rings of Brighthearth. So this is a 3 mana artifact with a bunch of text. I'm going to wait for it to be on screen before I start reading. It is a artifact that says whenever you play an activated ability, if it isn't a mana ability, you may pay 2. If you do copy that ability, you may choose new targets for the copy. So this does a lot of stuff, but most notably, what kind of combos do we get with rings? We can.
So the most obvious one is copying.
Oh God, Graham, you are back.
The reason I put the invention one on screen is because it has the oracle text, which is a lot less confusing. It's just whenever you activate an ability, rather than the Lorwyn one, which says whenever you play an activated ability, which is not
good.
Weird verbiage.
Rules
these days.
nomenclature, yeah.
Yeah. So, this. I'm trying to think of the most obvious combos. You can get
Basalt
a lot of
Monolith.
Basalt Monolith goes. No, it doesn't go infinite.
Does it not?
Oh yeah, it does. It does go infinite. If you have enough mana to start it, it goes infinite with Basalt Monolith. It's really, really powerful with Candelabra of Tanos, can generate a lot of mana that way.
Yeah.
Basically, there's a lot of 3-card combos with rings in the deck. It's sort of like the artifact version of Kiki Jiki combos with a ham sandwich.
Yeah, and conveniently, a lot of these combos, Rings of Brighthearth is actually more than just a Highlander card. This is a very popular EDH card as well. So if you're looking for all of the possible Rings of Brighthearth combos, there are a lot of them. But a cursory Google search should give you access to a large amount of information about it. But broadly speaking, this card's very important in the deck. Other cards that sort of can help you backdoor into infinite mana, something like Power Artifact, another card. So this is a 1 and a blue enchantment. Is it 1 and a blue?
I think it's 2 blue. 2 blue enchant artifact.
Blue.
Yeah, aura enchant artifact. Enchanted artifacts, activated abilities cost 2 less to activate. So this on either Basalt Monolith or Grim Monolith, that's you infinite.
Yeah, infinite colorless mana. And so then once you have that infinite colorless mana, there's a bunch of stuff you can do. Most notably, you can often play basically your whole hand.
Yeah. One of the ways this deck actually wins the game, most commonly these days, is Walking Ballista, actually. Mm-hmm. So you're looking to generate a ton of mana and then find your Walking Ballista and
just 20
with enough mana to just deal damage equal to their life points. Yeah.
There are other cards like Staff of Domination is a good one that appears in this deck.
Yeah.
Kind of a cool. This is kind of a cool, really like versatile card, I guess you could say. It does a lot of stuff. So once you have infinite mana, this card just lets you draw your deck, but it also, like, you can also gain infinite life with infinite mana if that's better than drawing your deck. Like, for instance, if they have infinite life or something like that, you just like, no, you can't draw your deck because you'll deck first. This goes infinite with Metalworker, another powerful mana card.
Yeah, not all the versions are playing Metalworker these days.
No, but if you are, or if you see it, this is a card that does go infinite.
Notably, we are going to post a list to one of the more recent successful Paradox Academy decks below in the description. So,
one of the other things that the Paradox, so these combos are all fairly complicated. They're 2 to 3 cards.
And at this point, I think it's important to note that this is a density-based combo deck. It's not an A plus B deck. You're not necessarily trying to assemble the same 2 cards every single game.
Yeah.
You're trying to just draw through, get a really huge bulk of mana, and then try to hit one of like 10 business cards to continue from there.
Yeah,
like,
there's a bunch.
You want to try to set up Mindslaver Lock. You want to try to get Paradox Engine in play with one of these draw effects to draw your deck. Another combo is Rings plus Top plus Paradox Engine. That draws your whole deck.
Yep.
Presumably you have enough mana afterwards to use it.
Just quickly for people who might not know, so Mindslaver is a 6 mana artifact that for 4 mana you can sacrifice it and take control of target player's turn during their next turn. And there's a land called Academy Ruins So this is a land that it makes colorless mana, and it's legendary. But then for a blue and a colorless and tapping it, you can put an artifact card from your graveyard on top of your library. And so what you can do with Mindslaver and Academy Ruins and 13 mana,
13.
12 mana plus the Academy Ruins, is that you can loop putting the Mindslaver on top of your deck, casting it and activating it, and basically your opponent never gets to control themselves on their turn ever again, which means you can basically deal with anything that might come up. There's never really a window for them to do anything, assuming you play it correctly.
Yeah, I can't think of a way to effectively break a Mindslaver lock unless the Mindslaver player is doing things incorrectly.
Yeah. As a brief aside, I was playing some 1v1 Winston draft, cube draft, two-headed giant on the weekend.
1v1 two-headed giant?
Correct, yeah. So you draft 2 decks Winston draft style, and then you control both of them. And we had a very interesting discussion about what Mindslaver did in this context, because it says target player, and I don't know, I was sort of thinking
You made up the format, you got to make up your own rules.
We figured it out. It never came up, but I did feel bad for my opponent who drafted his entire deck around Mindslaver, and he never got to. A real shame. But anyway, so this is another combo that appears in the deck, which is quite powerful. There are also, in the Paradox Academy deck, just some I win buttons, right? Some of these combos are really convoluted, but many of them are not, right? We have cards like Tinker in the deck, for Blightsteel Colossus. For a time, I don't know if all of them are, but many of the lists were just playing Emrakul. You just make 15 mana and then play this giant spaghetti monster.
I think they've started to sort of diverge away from playing the huge big creatures that are more interactable, and have started to go with just more redundancy in terms of just playing cards that are good more often. You never want to draw the Blightsteel, you never want to draw the Emrakul before it's sort of time. And the problem with Emrakul is that it's not actually very tutorable in the deck. Almost all your tutors are artifact tutors. The deck is playing things like Inventor's Fair, which is a land that if you have 3 artifacts in play, you can pay for and sacrifice it to search for an artifact. You're playing Fabricate, which is 3 mana, search for an artifact. You're playing Transmute Artifact, which is 2 blue, sacrifice an artifact. If you sacrifice an artifact, go find an artifact and pay the difference. So you're playing Word of Invention, which is X blue, 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 improvise. Put an artifact with convert mana cost X into play. So Emrakul
I'm noticing a theme here.
Yeah, you're really, really good at finding artifacts, but not so good at finding not artifacts. So when you put your win conditions in your deck, there's them being artifacts has obvious upside in that your ability to find them is so much easier, because you're also playing a lot of draw 7 effects. You're playing Time Spiral, Time Twister, Memory Jar at the very least. Often lists we're splashing red for Wheel of Fortune.
Yep.
So,
and let's talk about really quickly why this deck is so good. What makes it so powerful? Because we've just described a bunch of really powerful interactions, but what stops the deck from, say, folding to counter spells or other decks with interaction?
And so counterspells are better than discard against this deck, because you want to be able to hold it for the turn they're going off. Them getting individual draw steps is really powerful. So I've found it's really hard to time my discard against this deck, and they're so likely to just draw a live card off the top of their deck that counterspell often buys you a turn, whereas discard, you maybe get to discard the best card in their hand, but if they have 2 good cards in their hand, then they just get to go off anyways. Or if they draw a good card off the top of the deck, they're going off anyways.
Yeah, so I think the basic problem with attacking this deck and why it is so good is that too many of the cards matter. There's just too many important cards, even though the actual number of sort of quote unquote payoffs is maybe a little lower, in the 10 to 15 range. There are so many cards which help you get there that you do have to interact with quite a lot of stuff. And so as a result, the deck can kind of, even if it's being interacted with quite extensively, kind of stumble and bubble into a win eventually.
And one thing I think that people do against this deck in particular too often, to sort of talk about a better way to hamstring this type of strategy, is they jump the gun too fast on either their discard or their counter spells or their naturalize effects. And I think you really have to wait for the key piece, because lots of the pieces look threatening. I've seen lots of people instantly Kasali Pride Mage a Staff of Domination when it's in play, when one of these people have a staff in play. But unless they have tons and tons of mana, staff is going to net them some advantage, but it's not actually super threatening until they have infinite mana. Whereas then they like naturalize the Staff of Domination, then the Academy player plays Paradox Engine the next turn and wins the game. Whereas if they still had their Kasali Pride Mage in play, they'd be able to nug the Paradox Engine instead of the staff and still be in the game.
Yeah, extensively.
And same with this card. This is definitely one of the decks where you want to try to discard them when their hand is much smaller and they've had more draw steps. Like, because this is the types of hands you have to keep with this deck. You're a density-based deck, so you really are averse to mulliganing. You really want to keep as many cards in your hand to have as big a mana hand as you can.
Yeah.
And just getting extra draw steps is, as I mentioned before, is so powerful in the deck that you really want to wait until the last possible moment where you think before they're going to go off to use your discard spells.
Quickly before we move on, let's talk briefly, because we've talked a lot about why the deck's very powerful. Let's maybe give people an idea of what they can do to beat it. Can we maybe give people some hate cards in various different colors that are like reasonable to play in Highlander? Because as funny as the story of, I think it was Ben getting Stony silenced in Highlander, and that story was funny, don't get me wrong, it's probably not correct to put Stony Silence in your deck. But there are a lot of cards you can play that will be reasonable. So what are some cards people can play?
So I'll go through the various colors of what are some good options. So in black, discard is probably the best you have.
And maybe cards that, well, Wrench Mind is unfortunately pretty horrendous against this deck, but maybe cards that force them to discard more than one card.
Yeah, definitely. Like Mind Rot is actually an actively reasonable card against this type of deck.
Delirium Skeins.
Yeah, that one's just insane.
This is 1 and a black for a sorcery that says
2 and a black.
2 and a black for a sorcery that says each player discards 3 cards.
Yeah, and obviously this deck isn't interacting at all with the board. They have literally 2 cards that interact with the board. They have Capsize and Upheaval. So like anything you play is going to stick. They're not going to counter any of your spells. They might have a Pact of Negation.
Maybe a mana drain, depending on how they're spending their points.
Yeah, not usually I've found. But yeah, basically anything you do is free reign. So if you have a fast clock as well, that's going to be really good. Like racing this deck is a very viable option. White has lots of good options. The usual hate bears are really, really good. Like Aven Mind Sensor, Thalia is really good.
If you want more evidence of which white cards actually are good against this deck, you can go to Loading Ready Live, the YouTube channel, and look up the 2017 Canadian Highlander Championships. If you check into the semifinals, quarterfinals?
Semis, I think.
Semifinal. No, quarterfinals.
You're right.
And you'll see Adam Thorne and Ben Wheeler playing exactly this matchup, White Weedy against Paradox Engine. And I won't spoil the result if you don't know, but certainly there's some back and forth, I can say at the very least, and you can see some of the cards that are powerful.
Yeah.
Graham astutely has put Thalia up on the board. Great call, Graham. That card's good against Paradox Engine.
Yeah.
I think it's because you said Thalia.
Did I say Thalia?
I said Thalia.
All right.
One of you said Thalia.
JR, well done.
No cred.
Graham, good listening. Proud of you.
If you want to go, like if this deck is a real problem in your meta, I think another card you can play that's not insane to play is Kataki War's Wage. This card just colds them. They cannot beat it.
Yeah. This one is the Stones.
So it's a 1 and a white for a 2/1. That gives each artifact an upkeep cost of 1 on their controller's upkeep. So, yeah, they're never beating this card in a million years. Red, the best cards you have are sort of incidental artifact hate cards. Like, I'm not advocating for you to play Shatterstorm or Shattering Spree in your Highlander deck. That's just not realistic. But things like Abrade, things like Pillage, if you're an aggressive deck, and then just creatures that destroy. I'm not certain Release the Gremlins is quite good enough. Although finding Gremlins in a Paradox Engine is pretty hilarious.
It is quite fun. Have you ever channeled Release the Gremlins someone? I haven't either. I'm just asking.
Doesn't seem very good because you need a target for each X you get.
Yeah, but they make a bunch of stuff. Then you cast the channel and release the Gremlins. Then you make like 10 Gremlins. It's great.
And you paid 20 life?
Well, like we're above 20, obviously. Look.
I miss Serge. All right.
To keep this kind of thing in check.
Yeah.
Another card you can play is Fiery Confluence. This should probably
Yeah.
be in your deck anyway, but if it's not, this card's the Stone Cold Nuts.
Another really, really good one, if you're a more controlling red deck, is Subterranean Tremors.
Yes.
This card, at first glance, you're like, why is this card good against an Academy deck? They don't play creatures. But Subterranean Tremors has a lot of text. It's X and a red, deals X damage to all creatures without flying. If X is 4 or more, destroy all artifacts is
That's
the
the
key
line of text you
here.
care about, yeah.
Yeah, so if you can make it to 5 mana in your Subterranean Tremors deck, this is going to hurt him real bad. Blue, the best you get is counterspells. Counterspells are actually pretty good against this deck. Like, if you have a clock and 2 to 3 counterspells, you're probably beating them most times if you time your counterspells correctly and effectively.
The one other thing you can do as a blue deck is if you aren't playing flash threats and this deck is a problem, play more flash threats because it allows you to develop a threat while also being safe. One of the issues that the blue decks sometimes run into against these combo decks is knowing when they can safely tap out, and sometimes the answer is you can't safely tap out and give them a chance to use their mana at sorcery speed. So cards like
Vendilion Click,
Stifle Bird.
Yeah, Nimble Obstructionist.
That's the name of that card. Yeah, like
Teferi, Torrential Gearhulk. Even in this matchup, if your hand is very good, even just playing Snapcaster Mage as a
2/2,
as a threat
2/1,
is reasonable. You, as a blue deck, you absolutely need to start clocking this deck. Otherwise, they're just going to draw a high enough density of cards that they're just going to beat you through however many counterspells.
One other card we forgot to mention in the Paradox Engine deck that they use defensively is Giga Drouse. That's the other.
They also have been playing Defense Grid recently, which is
Yeah.
to counteract the blue spells. But yeah,
So Giga Drouse is a single blue with Replicate for a blue that says tap target permanent. And so the cool thing you can do with this is Academy gives you a lot of blue mana. And with that blue mana, you can cast Giga Drouse and target all the control players' lands on their end step. But you can actually make multiple copies even. So that each land has 2 Giga Drouses copying it, so even counterspells aren't going to allow your opponent to maybe free up a couple lands. I did get my Giga Drowse counterfluxed a couple weeks ago.
that feels bad.
I still won the game.
You can also get the Replicate trigger stifled, and you have to pay for the Replicate, like to replicate it, and it stifles them all. I didn't know this. I had to look it up.
I need to play more Stifles.
Yeah, but you can get them with Stifle.
Holy moly.
Or Stifle Bird, as he so affectionately called it.
Yeah.
And green, the best options in green are the sort of delayed naturalizes or instant speed naturalizes if you're able to play them. So things like Thrashing Brontodon, the new Dino Kasali Pride Mage from Rivals of Ixalan, and Kasali Pride Mage are pretty much the best of the best. Rex Sage is actually solidly medium.
Yeah.
It's, you're gonna take it. You're not gonna
look a gift Rex Sage in the mouth.
Yeah, you're not gonna turn it away, but you're not like as excited to see it as Thrashing Brontodon. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it.
I mean, if you wanted to go, if your deck goes bigger, there's actually still one more option.
Bane of Progress, yeah. Nice try. I almost mentioned this one.
This one's like baby playable. Like if your metagame is like fraught with Paradox Engine or Academy decks, then
it's a reasonable card. Like it's
I was watching at home, or listening at home. I put Wicker Bow Elder on the screen.
yes.
What is Bane of Progress?
Well, it's a 6 mana elemental creature. It's a 2/2, so it's not a great rate, you would think.
But wait.
There's more. When it enters the battlefield, destroy all artifacts and enchantments. Put a +1/+1 counter on Bane of Progress for each permanent destroyed this way. So this card has been in and out of the meta, currently out, surprisingly, but maybe it's time for it to make its way back in. Because, I mean, if you survive to a point where maybe you're a green deck and your opponent's on Paradox Engine, and they've developed out their board, and you've developed out your board, and they go, haha, I will draw some cards and play some more Mana Rocks, and I'm going to get you next turn, and then you play this.
They are no longer going to get you next turn.
And they're probably dead on your next turn.
Yeah, you probably have a 14/14.
Minimum, yeah. So, okay, is there some way we can, like, I was going to say, like, make 20 artifacts ourselves? like go infinite, make artifacts, then play this with haste somehow. It's probably not good, right?
Isn't there some sort of Thopter assembly time sieve thing?
Well, yeah, but like that just wins the game on its own. Thopter Foundry, Sword of the Meek, time sieve. That's just good. Actually, in fact, that's another combo that features in the Paradox Engine deck sometimes, is a Thopter Sword.
No.
Yeah, Thopter Sword. Really?
No.
You don't think they play it anymore?
I don't think they regularly play white or black mana, so I don't think they can cast it reliably. Isn't it white black hybrid blue?
Yeah, maybe you're right.
I don't think you can cast it in this deck. You're like base blue green because you play the green cards.
Did you mean Thopter Foundry?
Yeah, that's the one we're talking about.
I didn't even know there was a card called Thopter Assembly.
Yeah,
but here we are.
Little known fact. Yeah, no, Thopter Foundry. Okay, maybe I'm thinking of more outdated Academy builds, I guess.
Yeah, there are definitely some Academy decks that have played this in the past, but I don't think the Paradox decks have ever played it.
The new top dogs pour blue-green, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, so this deck is basically only plays blue cards. It splashes green for land tutors. It plays Crop Rotation, Sylvan Scrying, Reap and Sow.
Yeah.
I think that's it. I could be wrong. You can check the list below. I'm going off the cuff here. And then it usually plays Wheel of Fortune as a red card, and I think that's all the non-blue spells.
It has played Fast Bond before when it had points.
It has, yeah. The points in this deck are sort of up in the air. They're basically all fast mana. I think it is currently playing Blue Mox, Soul Ring, Mana Vault, Mana Crypt, Tolarian Academy.
Something like that. They did cut Tinker a little while ago.
Yeah. So that's basically this deck in a nutshell. It's definitely easy, like not easy to interact with, but it's definitely interactable. But if you play like the decks this preys on are the mid-range decks. The mid-range decks just don't have enough disruption to stop it and aren't fast enough to clock it.
Yeah, well, and I think back to when we had Allison on the show. She maybe described it the best I've ever heard it described, which is like the mid-range deck is looking to like take your punch and then hit you back harder. Problematically, the Paradox Engine punch is just like you're dead.
It's sort of one of those.
It's a rocket-propelled grenade to the face.
It's one of those old like video game bosses where like you have to beat up on it really, really fast, and if you don't, its ultimate attack just like kills you no matter what.
Yeah.
And so you just like have to hit it really hard, really fast, and if you don't, you're just toast.
Yeah, so if your deck just like lacks the capability to do that, you're gonna have a hard time.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's pretty comprehensive. If you have more questions, feel free to ask. We'll try to get to them if we can. Yeah, like more specific questions, we can try and fill you in with the deck list. As we mentioned, the deck list will be posted below. The next deck we're going to talk about, it's a bit of a two-parter, but we're gonna split it up and talk about them separately. But they're based around the core interaction, the same core interaction, and this is Hulk combo decks. Mm-hmm. So there's sort of two. The first we're going to talk about is the Flash Hulk combo deck, and the other one we're going to talk about is the Sandra Bullock Pattern Rector. Yeah.
Creature combo deck.
Creature combo deck, the Protean Hulk Pattern of Rebirth combo deck. So let's start with Flash Hulk though before we move into the other one. So Flash Hulk, Flash is a 1 and a blue instant for, and it says choose a creature card from your hand. You put it into play as though you just played it. Then you have to pay its casting cost +2. If you can't,
reduced by 2.
Reduced by 2. Sorry. If you can't, you have to sacrifice it. And I say have to. It's actually a good thing.
Yeah.
I actually have a rules question. If you cast Flash and put Hulk into play and have the mana to pay for Hulk, are you obligated to pay for Hulk?
I'd have to read Flash.
Yeah, you need the Oracle text.
Yeah, all right. You keep talking for a second.
All right, we're getting some Oracle text.
Yeah, the Oracle text is you may put a creature from your hand onto the battlefield. Actually, I can just, the Magic 25 has it here. If you do, sacrifice it unless you pay its mana cost reduced by up to 2.
Right,
and the notes and rules information.
You can choose not to pay.
Yeah, there's a ruling from 2018
that says you don't
the creature
have
enters
to
the
pay.
battlefield. It will trigger even if you choose not to pay.
Okay.
So yeah.
So now you know. I was just curious. Just wanted to make sure I didn't get got.
Yeah, I've been wrong in the last few rules.
Yeah, you wanted to be sure.
I've been trying to
and you're setting a good example, right? Because for any judge, you shouldn't just like spout off what you think it is. Checking it's always safer.
Yeah, definitely in a tournament setting. Like,
Yeah.
Just look it up.
So the other side of this combo is Protean Hulk. This card's pretty well known, but it's a 7-mana 6/6. It's a beast. And when Protean Hulk enters the battlefield, when it dies, search your library for any number of creature cards with total converted mana cost 6 or less. Put them onto the battlefield. Then you shuffle your library. This card's pretty good. And so this is the core interaction. You're looking to sacrifice Protean Hulk, and then there is a loop that you can do that then wins the game. Jared, do you want to explain the sort of like steps after you've sacked the Protean Hulk that lets you win the game?
Yeah, so this is the Flash Hulk typical line you see happening. You go get Karmic Guide and a sack outlet, either Viscera Seer or Carrion Feeder. Karmic Guide is a 5-mana, 3 white, 2/2 flying angel with protection from black and echo. When it enters the battlefield, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Then you go get Viscera Seer, which is just a 1 black creature, 1/1 that says you can sacrifice a creature with no mana cost attached to the sacrifice.
Just sacrifice a creature, scry one.
Yeah, you don't care about the scry one.
In fact, it's actively not relevant because you're shuffling your deck again.
Exactly. So you go get Karmic Guide, which brings back Hulk. Then you sacrifice Hulk again. You go get Body Double and Death Cultist. Body Double enters as a copy of Protean Hulk. Then you sacrifice Body Double. Death Cultist is a 1-mana 1/1 that you can sacrifice to, I think...
Target player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life.
Yeah.
This card is interchangeable with Mog Fanatic if you would like to play Mog Fanatic instead.
Pretty much, yeah.
And Mog Fanatic is a single red for a creature that says sacrifice Mog Fanatic, deal 1 damage to target creature or player.
Yeah. Then you sacrifice the Body Double, which is a copy of Hulk. Go get Revel Arc and a potato. And then...
Sylvan Safekeeper.
Yeah, sure. And then you go get... You could have also got Sylvan Safekeeper the second time if you wanted to.
Yeah.
There's lots of other things you can do. I'm just going to do the basic version. Then Revel Arc is a 5-mana 4/3 flyer. When it leaves the battlefield, return up to 2 target creature cards with power 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, and it has Evoke. You're not evoking it. You're hopefully never casting it. You sacrifice the Revel Arc. Revel Arc brings back Body Double, and the Death Cultist you just sacked. Then you can sacrifice Body Double any number of times to bring it back as a Revel Arc. And you just keep getting Death Cultist and itself back.
Yep. And so that then deals infinite damage. So I know it sounds convoluted. The basic lesson that you should take away from this is you want to try and interact as soon as possible. Because once the Hulk starts getting sacked, your opponent has their entire deck in their hand. And Jared's described the very simple version of that line, but there are other versions that are more complicated with protection involved. There are cards like Sylvan Safekeeper, which is a creature for a single green that says sacrifice a land, target creature gets hexproof until end of turn. Shroud until end of turn. I'm sorry. Its aim gets better. And it's really difficult to interact with Flash Hulk and the Hulk combos once they start going off.
Yeah, and unless you're removing things from their graveyard,
yes.
That's the one thing you can, in fact, need to wait on.
Yeah.
If you can remove the Hulk after the first time it gets sacrificed, that likely stymies their combo. Like if you have a Shred Memory or something in your hand, that's like one of the only instant speed graveyard hate cards I can think of, and it comes up.
Yeah.
But
so why is this Protean Hulk combo deck good? Well, we've talked about the basic combo, but that's about what, 9 cards: Flash, Hulk, Revel Arc, Body Double, Karmic Guide, Death Cultist. That's Viscera Seer, Carrion Feeder, because you probably want to have 2. But it's like less than 10.
Yeah.
So you still get the rest of a deck to build around this.
50-some cards to just protect this combo. And
right.
That's all it does.
And since this combo is so efficient and so good, that's all you have to do. You don't have to plan to interact in any other way. And so while some combo decks, like, for example, maybe Time Vault or... Kiki Pod have these fair backup plans. You're not attacking with Karmic Guide in this deck or Revel Arc. Like, you're never going on the play my 4/3 flyer, get in there plan. You have to combo every game to win, more or less. There are obviously exceptions to every rule, but You have to combo every game to win, but the combo is instant speed, right? Flash is cheap. You can cast it at any time. It's easy to find. And the combo itself, I mean, this deck has been powerful enough that it's basically been like pointed into the dirt, right? Like Flash and Hulk are 10 points now.
That's
together.
what I was just going to bring up, is that Hulk is 3 points and Flash is the full other 7.
Yeah.
So this combo is deemed so powerful, and like it's not that Flash is like so good that it needs to be 7 points. The only reason it is 7 points is because of the power level of this deck when it's combined with Protean Hulk.
Yeah. And so why are we talking about this deck? Well, Wizards just keeps printing more ways to find creatures and/or Flash.
Yeah.
And the card that we talked about in the last set review that comes up a lot with this is Spellseeker. So this is the 2 and a blue mage.
Human wizard.
Human wizard, right? Not mage. That's not a very magic-y thing.
I don't think
there is a
creature
mage.
type
They do
mage
not.
in
They
Magic.
do not exist.
Wizards.
Wizard. We're talking about Spellseeker. No worries. And so Spellseeker is a 1/1 for 3 mana that when it enters the battlefield, you get to search for an instant sorcery that costs 2 or less, reveal it, and put it into your hand. This finds Flash, obviously. More importantly, this turns all your creature tutors into Flash, and Flash Hulk plays a bunch of creature tutors.
And this also finds Hulk second-handedly. You can get any number of creature tutors. You can get Worldly Tutor now that it's 0. You can get Sylvan Tutor. You can get Eladamri's Call if you have access to white.
Yeah, which oftentimes Flash Hulk Splash is white for exactly this card.
You play it, but you don't always have it in play. It depends how good your mana is.
Yeah,
like
that's
white,
sure.
White's like the least important color in the deck.
Yes, definitely. So the deck is pretty redundant. It's slowly been taxed to become less and less redundant. That's where why the points have gone onto the combo themselves and less so onto the tutors. But I mean, Flash Hulk is is a big reason why a bunch of the tutors that you see at 1 point have to stay 1. Because if they went to 0, Flash Hulk would get too good, is the concern. This deck is very powerful and obviously just got slightly better. But one of the reasons we wanted to talk about it is to talk about the power. And the power is it's fast combo, can protect itself with counter spells and discard spells. So it's like a bit of a nightmare in that regard. Like speaking of Highlander championships, if you go to the Canadian Highlander YouTube channel and check out the 2016 Canadian Highlander championships, is a little sore spot for Jer. You can watch Jer play in the finals actually of that tournament.
Get to watch me get absolutely barbecued.
And Jer's playing blue-white control, so lots of counter spells, lots of interaction. You even had a bunch of flash threats in your deck, which we talked about being good in the combo matchup.
It doesn't matter in this matchup.
No, and
you can just never, ever, ever tap out.
No, Josh, Jeremy's.
I took the only game off Josh in the entire tournament, though.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean,
he hard cast Protean Hulk, and I immediately Swords to Plowshares did. I was like, holy shit! I get to cast Swords, and it wins me the game.
You can go look for some live footage. That deck list will be significantly out of date.
That
Hulk got pointed a bit after that.
So did Gifts Ungiven and Merchant Scroll and.
Yeah, there were a bunch of cards. So we want to talk about ways that you can go about beating this deck, though, because there are some. So what are good ways to interact with Protean Hulk?
So this is actually a deck where discard is much better than counterspells as opposed to Paradox Engine, where I believe it's the other way around. The reason being is that their tutors are really face up a lot of the time. You know exactly what they're doing. Like more often than not, they're not just going to have Flash and Hulk in their hand, and a lot of their tutors make you reveal what they get. So you often have a lot of face-up information about what their hand is.
Okay, you often have sort of a bar where you know how close you are to dying.
Exactly. And so this is once again a matchup where you don't just want to Thoughtseize turn 1, hope to get you. You definitely want to make them spend 3 mana on turn 3, burn their tutor, and then Thoughtseize them.
Yeah.
Because if you can get Flash or Hulk into their graveyard, it makes it much, much harder for them to...
Particularly Hulk. Hulk is a much more challenging card for them to recur.
That's when they start having to cast Karmic Guide sort of thing, and that's not where they want to be in life.
No.
It does sometimes unlock Body Double, which can be awkward. I've definitely Thoughtseize their Hulk and being like, yeah, did it. And then the next turn they just cast Body Double and killed me, and I was just like, ugh.
Yeah. What did I do to deserve
what have
this?
I done?
Yeah. One of the other things that's very powerful against the Protean Hulk combo is just graveyard interaction. Jeremy already talked about it, but like Scavenging Ooze, Deathrite Shaman, these are cards that can break up the combo. Basically, if you can get Hulk into exile, you win, as long as you're not just already dead.
Yeah,
but
the problem with these ones is that they're very face up, and this deck actually plays quite a bit of creature interaction for a all-in combo deck. Like it's going to play Toxic Deluge, Damnation. It's probably going to play like Fatal Push, Collective Brutality. So it's playing more interaction than you're used to seeing out of an all-in combo deck.
Yeah.
It's playing a bunch of counter spells, so like they're not just going to go for the combo if you have a Scavenging Ooze in play, unfortunately. But if you have access to like Court of Calling with Scavenging Ooze, that's probably going to be good enough.
It is also true. It also means, though, that these cards can buy you time, right? Having them in play forces them to dig for a third layer of interaction before they can actually go off, which is good. And then the one other thing I was going to mention is that there actually are, this is one of those, like, when Flash Hulk was the best deck, there were some kind of interesting tech choices you can make in your deck. I started playing Transgress the Mind as a discard spell, which is a 1 and a black for a sorcery that says target player reveals their hand, I think. Yeah, reveals his or her hand. You choose a card with converted mana cost 3 or greater, and you exile that card. So I mean, it gave you a chance to nip the Hulk in the bud for good.
Appetite for Brains is another super hot one. Single black, target player reveals their hand. You may take a creature card with CMC 4 or greater and exile it.
Just choose a card.
Oh, card. Sweet.
Even better.
Yeah.
Get their mystical teachings.
Yeah. Apparently their sorceries have brains too. Who knew? But
look, I don't question.
Looking back to Protean Hulk, I don't know if, do you think a zombie's eaten the brain of that thing?
I mean, probably,
it's
right?
It's like bubbly.
Like the flavor text on Protean Hulk implies that it exists to be eaten.
I guess.
So like it is the Protein Hulk, right? Like it's just there.
Protean.
I mean, but it's got to be deliberate, right? There's no way they named this thing Protean Hulk thinking people weren't gonna mispronounce it protein.
I think.
I mean, Serge is in Vegas this week, so it's.
I know.
Whose job is it to mispronounce cards?
Oh, me, definitely.
Oh, okay.
But I don't even think. I mean, yeah. I don't know. We are doing a much better job on the pronunciation so far. This episode would have been a cavalcade of cards that Serge does not love pronouncing. Protean Hulk, Eladamri's Call. Like
yeah.
Those two alone.
Perennial struggles.
But fortunately, he's having lots of fun.
Yeah, so that's pretty much this deck.
Yeah.
In a nutshell, this deck, is sort of the bane of my existence. I really.
Yeah, a lot of people dislike this deck.
I don't dislike many Highlander decks. I'm like down to game against pretty much anything. But if I know you're playing Flash Hulk, the odds of me playing fun games against you are not
considerably decreased. And it's sort of interesting. I mean, it plays into the sort of psychology of what people enjoy. And I think one of the things about the Flash Hulk combo that's so irritating is that like it's not even like a combo deck where you tapped out at the wrong time and then on their turn they killed you. It's like you can tap out on their turn and they kill you. Like
it happens to me several times in the finals of that.
Yeah, you're like, all right, end step Vendilion click you, and then they flash you and you die. And like, you know.
Well, yeah, one of your powerful Magic stories is like you don't do anything for your first 2 turns.
Oh yeah.
First 3 turns, and then on your end step on turn 3, your opponent Vendilion clicks you, and then you Flash Hulk kill them.
Yeah,
you just naturally drew Flash and Hulk.
Yeah, that was not.
And he's
good.
just like, huh.
Yeah.
Cool.
That guy doesn't play Magic anymore.
Yeah. I wonder why, Liam.
It's not correlated, I don't think. But, you know, maybe. We talk about it often, actually. It still comes up. I work out with him. It's fun. Yeah, it's good. Whenever, he's lifting too much weight, I'm like, hey, remember that time? All right, so let's diverge a little bit, and we're going to talk about the second Hulk deck. This one, I think, is a lot more palatable for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So this is the Pattern Rector Hulk deck. So Academy Rector is a powerful card, 3 and a white. It's a 1/2 for a human cleric.
Are you sure it's a cleric?
Oh, I'm absolutely positive.
All right.
Boom. Cleric.
All right, fine.
Not even sure it's a human. Certain it's a cleric. It's a human as well. I'm getting the nod from the booth. And when Academy Rector is put into a graveyard from play, you may remove Academy Rector from the game. If you do, search your library for an enchantment card, put that one into play, then shuffle your library. The next card in this combo
Pattern
is
of Rebirth. That's 3 and a green for an enchant creature, aura. When enchanted creature is put into a graveyard from play, that creature's controller may search their library for a creature card, put that card into play. If they do, shuffle their library. So what you want to do is get Academy Rector and Sack Outlet, see Viscera Seer, into play at the same time. And you actually want a third creature as well. It can be anything. It can be a Grizzly Bear. You sack Academy Rector, put the Pattern of Rebirth
on your Grizzly Bear.
On your Grizzly Bear after you resolve Academy Rector's trigger. Then you sack the Grizzly Bear. Then you put Hulk into play, and then you rinse and repeat.
Combo the same way that we described in the Flash Hulk combo.
One thing you do in this deck is you usually don't win with Death Cultist. Usually you're winning with some sort of Murderous Redcap recursion.
Okay, so like you're doing something like you already have the Sack Outlet in play, and then you go get Malira, Steelwalk Outcast, and Murderous Redcap to deal infinite damage to them.
Or more commonly these days, Vizier of Remedies.
Okay.
Because you're also playing you're playing many more creatures in this deck. You're looking to win, not necessarily with the Hulk combo every time. You are sometimes just
naturally going to fall into these 3-card combos.
Yeah, and so you're playing Vizier plus Devoted Druid plus Walking Ballista. You're playing Anafenza the Foremost as well.
Yeah. What colors is this deck?
So this is an Abzan deck.
Okay.
Black, green, white. Sorry, not the Foremost. Kintree Spirit.
Kintree Spirit is the one you're thinking of.
Sorry, Booth. I goozled you. Yeah, you're playing this one as well. Both these creatures, as opposed to Malira, just have a little more going on. They do a little bit more than just...
They're a little more Stacy's momish.
Combo. All right.
All right, moving on. So yeah, so this deck also plays a lot more Sack Outlets. So where the Flash Hulk deck only has Carrion Feeder and Viscera Seer, the 2 ones we talked about, the 1-mana ones, this deck will often be playing 2 and even 3-mana Sack Outlets. So Cartel Aristocrat, Varolz, the Scar Striped.
And a notable thing about Varolz is that this deck is playing even more creature tutors, so it's playing Green Sun Zenith. And the printing of Varolz was actually a huge boon for this deck because it was the first Sack Outlet that you could reliably Green Sun for.
All right. That makes a lot of sense. And what are the differences between these decks? I mean, obviously there are a bunch, but what are the core things that differentiate them?
Flash Hulk is like 80% combo, 20% control. If you're thinking about it, that's how I like to think about it.
Sure.
This deck is like 40% mid range, 30% combo, 30% just like, I don't know.
Dirtily aggro beats?
Yeah.
All right.
Bad mix of both.
Beats by not very good creatures?
Yeah.
All right.
Like, sometimes they curve like Elf into Kitchen Finks, into like 4-mana Planeswalker into Revelark, and you're just like, I'm just gonna die.
Yeah, this is just 9 power.
Sometimes they just like go like Elf into like discard spell plus Tide Hollow Sculler into Academy Rector plus Sack Outlet, and you're just like, how do I ever beat that? And then the other time they're like, turn 1 Viscera Seer, attack for 1, go.
Yeah. And so maybe one other thing we should talk about is the way that this deck looks interactive. It plays way more creatures. So Tide Hollow Sculler, Mesmeric Fiend, they have sort of followed out of the meta in a lot of decks, but this is the one deck that still plays them. Why is that? Why are these cards still good in this deck?
So with the way these old templated triggers work is that with the Sack Outlets, if you play these cards, you're able to sack them with the trigger on the stack and permanently exile a card from your opponent's hand because the leaves battlefield trigger will resolve before the enters the battlefield trigger finishes resolving. And so they never are able to get their card back. So the ability to do that is really strong. Also, they just have a high enough density of creature tutors that they want to be able to tutor for their disruption if they want it.
Yeah, and I guess you're also often playing cards like Survival of the Fittest, so just being able to...
Yeah, like Survival, Eldritch Evolution, Diabolic Intent, Altar of Bone sometimes makes the cut. But yeah, just your ability to find creatures is so much easier than it is to find.
Altar of Bone? Graham had never seen Altar of Bone before, apparently. Yeah, this is the original
the
Game of
weirdest
Thrones
green-white
throne.
sorcery you've ever seen. So it's a green and a white for a sorcery. Sacrifice as an additional cost to cast Altar of Bone. Sacrifice a creature. Then you get to search for a creature and put it into your hand.
I will direct you to the non-Oracle text on the screen, by the way, which is sacrifice a creature to look through your library for a creature card. You may put that creature into your hand, and after showing it to all other players, reshuffle your library afterwards.
It's also on the reserve list.
Oh.
Buy it now.
We don't often give financial advice here on North 100, but today I can't actually. I can't advise this in good faith. Actually, that's just
not MTG finance.
Yeah, not a good idea. But anyway, so yeah, Altar of Bone, another interesting card. I think one of the interesting differences between these decks is that they use the same core strategy in terms of how they win the game, but they're very, very different in terms of how they play, the general reception to them. Like, no one minds sitting down from someone playing Pattern Rector. Like, that's just, you're in for an interesting game of matchup, but like an interesting game of Magic. But if I as JR said, like if I'm like, hey Jerry, you want to play some practice games? I have Flash Hulk built. Like, JR's actually more likely to like go for a swim in the Victoria Harbor. Like, that's actually, like, if those were the two options, like, I don't know, the harbor's probably not that polluted this time of the year. Is
there a third option?
No, actually.
Can I just like sit in purgatory? That's like definitely the choice.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's quite interesting, and I think until quite recently, actually, Pattern Rector had a history of not being able to win a tournament. Recently, it has actually picked up some W's.
Yeah, it's won a few times now. I don't think calling it
Sandra Bullock. Yeah, it's not always the bridesmaid anymore. That's for
sure.
Did Sandra Bullock win an Oscar yet? Has that also happened?
I don't know.
Graham's on it. All right. That's where the name came from.
Asking
anyway.
the important questions here on North 100.
But yeah, so we'll post lists to all three of these decks. So that you can get all the information. She has won an Oscar. The Blind Side?
Yes, that's correct.
Nice.
2010.
That's some knowledge right
Liam
there.
got there.
So anyway, so yeah, we'll post lists for all these decks. I quickly mentioned that Serge is down in GP Vegas. He actually wanted me to mention to all of you that he's down there and that he has a Highlander deck with him. Also, there are other Loading Ready Run members down there. I don't know if any of them have Highlander decks with them.
I think Cam does.
I believe Cameron might. Yeah, James, Serge, Adam, Ben, and Cameron are all down there and doing various formats of spell slinging.
They're spell slinging. They're hanging out. So make sure to say hi if you see them, and if they're not too busy, ask them for a game. Yeah,
and Serge specifically told me to tell people that he's going to be spell slinging, but also looking to jam throughout the weekend. So if you don't catch him while he's spell slinging, but you see him around, I mean, make sure he's not doing something else, but he is actively looking to play some Highlander with you. So if you're at GP Vegas, why are you watching this show? Maybe it's nighttime or daytime. It's Vegas, I guess. But yeah, so anyway, if you're there, please go hang out with the other Loading Ready Run members who have Highlander decks. They'd love to see you. Also, Card Kingdom is hosting a Canadian Highlander tournament June 24th, 23rd?
23rd, the Saturday.
Jared and I are both going to be there.
Yes.
So if you are in the Seattle area, come check it out. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
I think it's going to be a good time.
Yeah.
All right, let's move to our closing segment of the show. This is Powerful Magic. No horns today, I guess. I don't know. When I intro it, it just feels wrong to do the horns as well.
Yeah.
Anyway, Jerry, you're on for Powerful Magic today. In a shocking twist of fate, I'm not doing both segments.
Yeah. Nice to give me a shot. Yeah. All right, this one's from a while ago. It's actually with against Alistair.
My poor friend.
Yes. So it's the same person who tapped out
turn 3 for a
foolishly for a Vendilion Click after their opponent had cast literally no spells and then died. So this was right after Dig Through Time had been printed. I, as usual, had Food Chain sleeved up. And back in these days, Mana Drain wasn't pointed, so I actually got to play it. And so he's playing he famously played Esper Control for almost all of his Highlander career in various forms, tap out, not tap out, little column A, little column B, whatever.
Yeah, he played other decks, but it's definitely
mostly Esper Control.
Yeah.
And so he was playing Esper Control against my Wacky Food Chain deck, and I was tapped out mostly, except I had a Wild Cantor in play, and
we were playing Wild Cantor and Food Chain?
Yeah, they didn't have as many mana dorks, and I was trying to go real fast.
I see. All right.
This card's not good. It's a green-red hybrid for a 1/1, and you can sacrifice it to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. I had Wild Cantor in play and 1 mana up. He cast Dig Through Time main phase to try to find something. I mana drained it by sacrificing my Wild Cantor and tapping my mana. And then I got to untap and hardcast Emrakul to Aeon's Torn.
With the 8 mana from Dig Through Time.
Yeah, because he only paid 2, but mana drain gives me 8.
And then you just have 7 more.
Yeah. Yikes. It was the games of like creature combo versus control are very interesting. They're almost never fast, and the creature combo deck usually needs to do something sort of weird to end the game. Like you usually need to like attack for 7 turns with Elvish Visionary. Then they're like, I guess I'll Wrath of God this Elvish Visionary, and then you like do some stuff to win.
Makes sense.
And in this case, I needed to sack my Wild Cantor that I was beating down with to mana drain a Dig Through Time to hardcast the biggest spaghetti of them all.
This is a large spaghetti monster.
Spaghetti Mama.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was just after Dig Through Time had been printed, so he like didn't immediately realize how much mana I was getting, and he's like, oh, that's pretty good. And then like when I announced like get 8 mana, he was just like, oh, that's really good. And then I like showed him this Emrakul that I was casting. He's like,
I am dead.
It was just like steps of like how good it was becoming.
A slow escalation of panic.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, that's the story. I love it. Emrakul, good card. Mana Drain, also a good card.
Dig Through Time, bad card.
That card's pretty good.
Probably the best card we spoke of, but
maybe. So thanks so much for tuning into the show this week. Next week, Serge will be back from his GP Vegas duties, but so we hope to see you then. Until then, thanks so much to everyone who supported us over at patreon.com/LoadingReadyRun. We couldn't do this without you, and we'll see you next week.
I also realized